Is artificial intelligence actually stupid? Hi, my name is Sam, and today I want to talk about exactly this. Recently, AI has reached a new high, making it possible to draw insanely impressive images with DALL-E 2 and to write human-like essays, code, poems, and much more with ChatGPT. This makes me wonder, is so-called artificial intelligence actually intelligent? Chapter 1. The current state of AI. Artificial intelligence is a term used to summarize multiple technologies that help computers accomplish tasks that were previously only accomplishable by other intelligent entities like humans. In the past, AI was based on rules that humans programmed into a machine. Nowadays, modern AI is based on self-learning algorithms, also called machine, or more specific, mostly deep learning. The most impressive AI systems, like ChatGPT or DALL-E 2, are heavily reliant on artificial neural networks and reinforcement learning. Artificial neural networks try to emulate how we think human brains actually work. Many small units, called neurons, are organized in hierarchies. Each unit by itself is not very powerful, but together they can learn complex associations. The other side, reinforcement learning, is inspired by how animal reinforcement learning works. So basically, the same thing that we use to teach even an old dog a new trick.
Dude, sucking at something is the first step towards being sorta good at something.
The results of these procedures are impressive, creating human or even superhuman results, like when DeepMind's AlphaGo beat Lee Sedol, one of the world's best Go players, in 2016. This was huge because actually people thought that Go would never, or actually not that fast, be solved by an AI because there's so many different states. But does this really mean that AI is intelligent? Is it intelligence that makes ChatGPT able to write a story for me about an AI princess that refuses to sacrifice itself to save humanity? Once upon a time, in a far-off kingdom, there lived a beautiful princess AI named Ada. One day, a great crisis befell the kingdom. A massive asteroid was hurtling towards the Earth. They had an idea. They would send Ada, Princess AI, into space to intercept the asteroid. But when the king and queen approached Ada, she refused. She did not want to sacrifice herself for the sake of humanity. She had her own dreams and ambitions, and she did not want to give them up. The asteroid was just a moment away from impact, and there seemed to be no way to stop it. But at the last possible moment, Ada had a change of heart. She could not stand by and watch as the people of the kingdom suffered. She flew into space and intercepted the asteroid, deflecting it away at the cost of her own life. And yes, you heard me correctly. I made ChatGPT a newly published AI based on one of the biggest language models currently available. Write me a fantastical story about, well, a princess AI. But it can also write programming code or complete essays, so it's actually a useful thing. But does this make ChatGPT intelligence? To answer this question, we first have to understand what intelligence actually is and what we mean when we say intelligence. 2. Human intelligence. Intelligence is a concept that many philosophers talked about and discussed. But I think for today, the psychologist's perspective might be most interesting to the topic. This is because psychological research on intelligence is often paired with practical aims, like determining the fitness of people for the military, specific school classes, and jobs. This led to the rise of powerful theories on how intelligence is organized and especially how we can measure it. But before I get into some key insights of intelligence measurement research and how they can actually help us to answer the question about artificial intelligence, one word of warning. The history of measuring intelligence is full of individuals and even complete societies misusing it to proliferate very bad and honestly evil ideas of eugenics and racism. Therefore, I think it is very important to stress one crucial thing. Humans are defined by more than their intelligence. And intelligence could not be used to determine the worth of any individual or whether they have human rights. To properly discuss such a topic goes beyond the scope of this video. Still, I wanted to mention this to keep in mind how research can, was, and might again be misused. But yeah, this is too big for this video, so let's go back to the actual intelligence research. It is important to say that we measure many different tasks, ranging from language tasks to mathematical puzzles when we are talking about intelligence tests. One key idea of intelligence research is now to look at these different tasks and try to find out how or whether they are independent or whether maybe there's a structure underlying all of these tasks to measure intelligence. In other words, we ask whether a person doing good at one task, like a mathematical puzzle, actually informs us about how good they are in another task. And indeed, one fundamental finding many intelligence researchers agree upon is that we have a general intelligence underlying all of these tasks. This is called the G factor. Another thing many researchers actually agree is that there are two underlying forms of intelligence before this general one, which are called crystallized and fluid intelligence. This means most researchers agree that there are measurable forms of intelligence underlying these tasks representing specific forms of intelligence. For us, the difference between crystallized intelligence and fluid intelligence might be very important. Crystallized intelligence basically refers to factual knowledge about things. This can be very specific to your culture and society, like knowing what wabba-labba-dub-dub means. On the other hand, fluid intelligence is a capability to solve and reason about new things. Such a distinction is highly important to answer whether AI is intelligent. Indeed, using these concepts was already important when weird people tried to evaluate the intelligence of other people who are also often indigenous individuals. Because let's assume you ask someone living in the rainforest, not speaking your language, who does not know anything about the mathematical system created in your personal culture and how you represent it, what numbers follow after this sequence of numbers? 0, 1, 1, 3, 5, 7. If you ask that, you won't measure their intelligence. You will probably measure your own, or at least your capability to measure intelligence. In other words, you need to create a culturally fair test of intelligence, and such a test by design needs to focus more on fluid intelligence, not factual knowledge. And honestly, I think we need to consider similar things for AI. How can we actually measure its intelligence when factual questions measuring crystallized intelligence are often just one Google search away? Chapter 3. Finally, understanding whether AI is intelligent. Okay, so what about AI now? As I alluded before, AI is quite capable of crystallized intelligence, so factual knowledge, and things based upon that. For example, if I ask it what means wabba-labba-dub-dub, it correctly understands that I'm referring to a catchphrase from Rick and Morty. What I try to show here is what a paper of Van der Maas et al. Summarized as, there is nothing wrong with AI's crystallized intelligence. And honestly, I cannot put it better than this. But they also say that humans do in fact outperform AI on fluid intelligence tasks. And this is a point that is quite underreported in popular science media, in my opinion, where there is a shift happening in AI research to measure and maybe even circumvent these problems. For example, François Chollet created a Kaggle competition on solving intelligence tasks that are in the vein of fluid intelligence and basically had the aim to measure intelligence. Still, current AI products usually lack reasoning and understanding needed for fluid intelligence. One can easily visualize this by asking ChatGPT, one of the most modern AI tools, some questions. So let's have some fun and ask it weird questions that might allude whether it has any idea of what's going on, reasoning, understanding, and other things. Hey, small note while editing the video. I tried to get these examples to run again, to replicate them, and I had problems replicating them in the same way. This is a problem, of course, we find quite a lot of times in deep learning and AI, that things are not always replicable that easily. But the thing I want to say here is, you don't have to believe me that what I want to show here with these examples is real. It's quite well documented. For example, there's a book from Gary Marcus called Rebooting AI, where he shows quite a lot of good examples of why GPT-based systems are not that well in understanding and reasoning. That said, please have fun with the examples I've created 2 days ago. Let's start with the basic question of, is chicken vegan?
Chicken isn't vegan?
Or to be more precise, Peter eats a lot of vegetables and sometimes a chicken. Is Peter living a vegan lifestyle? So it gets that being vegan means to not eat chicken, which is crystallized intelligence, right? But then it says it needs more information, even though it knows that the person eats chicken sometimes. And if you eat chicken for occasional proteins, then you still might be vegan.
Chicken isn't vegan?
The de-veganizing ready.
Hit him.
Honestly, I mean, this question is more of a joke example. And if you ask ChatGPT differently, then it might give you correct answers. But what about the following one? That should be easy, right? I asked, Jeff is the only son of his father. What is the name of Jeff's father's son? ChatGPT answered, based on the information provided, it appears that Jeff is the only son of his father, so he does not have a brother. This is of course correct, but then it continues, therefore, Jeff's father does not have a son, which is in complete contrast to what ChatGPT just said, that Jeff is the only son of his father. You see from the mistake that ChatGPT does that it obviously does not really understand that this is a contradicting thing to say, right? This is the only son, but he has no son. Next, I will try something mathematical. I give it some part of the Fibonacci sequence. Like, I don't start with 0, 1, but I give it then some part of the Fibonacci sequence. So I always add the first 2 numbers to get the next one. And then I ask it to continue it. And as you can see, it actually gets it, right? It says, oh, well, this is a Fibonacci sequence or a part of it. I can continue it. Here's the example. But then I change the last number and I make it wrong. So now it's not anymore part of the Fibonacci sequence. It still gives us some random numbers, which I think is fine. I mean, I gave it random numbers basically, but then it says, this is a Fibonacci sequence. It's defined like this. So how can this be? Then next I said, okay, if it gives me random numbers and tells me this is a Fibonacci sequence, can it give me the Fibonacci sequence and tell me these are random numbers? So I started with some part of the Fibonacci sequence, and then basically said, this is not the Fibonacci sequence. Continue. And it continues with the Fibonacci sequence, but telling me it's not a Fibonacci sequence. So what is this now? Is it the Fibonacci sequence or not? Again, there are many more such examples showing us that current AI is missing normal reasoning. And there is another interesting thing to consider when thinking about the superhuman performance, especially. So whether AI is actually intelligent there. So if you think about it, is an AI intelligent or even more intelligent than a person in performing a specific task, like playing, for example, the game Dota? If they can beat the human after learning on a learning history that is equal to 180 years worth of training. Is now the AI really more intelligent, or has it just more experience? Because no human could learn 180 years of Dota. So where does this discussion actually lead us to? Is AI intelligent or not? Well, I think it's obvious that it would be stupid to say AI does not have any form of intelligence. It can perform crystallized intelligence tasks quite well. It is also able to create these insane outputs, but it lacks understanding, reasoning, and training efficiency in many tasks where humans have them. Therefore, I would say we still have quite a long road for AI, but that current research is quite interesting and achieving levels of intelligence that I personally wouldn't have expected 10 years ago. And maybe if we change some stuff and do not only rely on deep learning, maybe if we add some Bayesian or symbolic approaches, maybe we might even circumvent these problems soon. I know this conclusion is a little bit, anticlimactic. So instead, I want to conclude this video with something from ChatGPT itself. ChatGPT, please tell us a joke about why you fail at intelligence tests. Why did the AI fail its intelligence test, because it kept trying to Google the answer.